Gears of War is a 2006 military science fiction third-person shooter video game developed by Epic Games and published by Microsoft Game Studios. It is the first installment of the Gears of War series. It was initially released as an exclusive title for the Xbox 360 in November 2006 in North America, Australia, and most of Europe. A Microsoft Windows version of the game was developed in conjunction with People Can Fly and released a year later, featuring new content including additional campaign levels, a new multiplayer game mode, and games for Windows Live functionality. The game focuses on the troops of Delta Squad as they wield a desperate, last-ditch attempt to save the remaining human inhabitants of the fictional planet Sierra from a relentless and seemingly unstoppable subterranean enemy known as the Locust Horde. The player assumes the role of Marcus Phoenix, a former prisoner and war-hardened soldier. The game is based on the use of cover and strategic fire for the player to advance through the scenarios. A second player can play cooperatively through the main campaign to assist. The game also features several online multiplayer game modes for up to 8 players. Gears of War sold over 3 million copies in 10 weeks and was the fastest-selling video game of 2006, as well as the second most played game over Xbox Live during 2007. The game has since sold over 5 million copies by September 2008 and it currently stands as the 6th best-selling Xbox 360 game. The game received universal critical acclaim by critics, who praised its gameplay and detailed visuals, and it won several Game of the Year awards in 2006. The success of the game has led to the development of the Gears of War franchise. 2 sequels and 1 prequel have been made, starting with 2008's Gears of War 2. Its follow-up 2011 Gears of War 3 after having initially been set to have been released on April 5, 2011, and 2013's Gears of War Judgment. Adaptations to books and comics have been released, with a film in development. A remastering, titled Gears of War Ultimate Edition, was released for the Xbox One in August 2015. A Windows release date is currently targeted to be released in March 2016. Development was primarily overseen by the Coalition. Gameplay. Gears of War is a third-person shooter that places emphasis on using cover to avoid taking damage while moving towards enemy forces. The game uses a number of weapon archetypes, but predominantly featured is the Lancer, an assault rifle that has a mounted chainsaw bayonet that can deal melee damage at close range. Playable characters can carry 2 primary weapons, grenades, and a smaller, secondary weapon such as the snub pistol. Weapons are reloaded with a tap of the RB button, and a second tap within a given time rewards the player with a damage bonus. However, failing to perform the active reload correctly will cause the gun to become momentarily jammed while the player's character fixes it. When the player takes damage, the Crimson Omen, a red cog representing the player's health gauge, will fade into the screen, becoming more defined with larger amounts of damage. The player can seek cover to recover their health, but if they take too much damage, they will become incapacitated. Once this occurs, a skull will fill the center void of the omen. The player can then be revived by a teammate, executed by an enemy, or remain incapacitated until they bleed out, dying from blood loss. The game features a 5-act campaign that can be played alone or cooperatively with one other player. The campaign focuses on COG Army soldiers Marcus Phoenix and Dominic Santiago and their efforts in the Delta Squad to wipe out the Locust forces on their planet known as Sierra. The players will be joined by AI teammates that will help fight the Locust. Certain sections of the campaign feature 2 paths that can be taken as selected by the first player. If there is a second player, their character will automatically take the other. The campaign can be played at 3 difficulty settings in the first game. From easiest to hardest, these are casual, hardcore, and insane. The insane difficulty is unlocked once the game is beaten on either the casual or hardcore difficulty. Multiplayer Gears of War features up to 4-on-4 competitive gameplay, with teams representing the Gears or the Locust. Players must execute downed foes, otherwise these will revive after a time. In assassination matches, the team's leader is the only one that can track the other team's leader and pick up new weapons, after which teammates can pick them up, with the goal to eliminate the foe's leader. An Xbox 360 patch added the Annex mode, which is similar to King of the Hill, in which players must try to control a shifting control point for a certain amount of time to win. The PC version of Gears introduced King of the Hill, a mode not present in the Xbox 360 version, which uses a fixed control point but varies the conditions on which it is controlled. Synopsis. Setting and characters. Gears of War takes place on the planet Sera. A liquid called emulsion became a highly valued power source after a scientist discovered how to use it, and the economic shockwave led to several wars between nations. The coalition of ordered governments originally existed only as an obscure world government philosophy, but it evolved into a legitimate, though minor, political party during the 79-year-long Pendulum Wars. The soldiers of the COG are called Gears, after Emergence Day, when the Locusts began their attack on humanity. The COG were the ones who took the necessary steps to ensure the survival of human civilization, instituting martial law and taking charge of the effort against the Locust. 14 years later, the COG is the only human government left on Sera. 1 year after E-Day, after losing battle after battle against the Locust, the COG made the greatest sacrifice using the Hammer of Dawn on human cities, giving the citizens of Sera only 3 days to evacuate to the Jacinto Plateau, the only place Locust couldn't dig through, before pushing the proverbial button on the hammer strike. Side characters, such as Colonel Hoffman, Anthony Carmine, and Lieutenant Kim, also aid Delta Squad. Players take control of Phoenix in the campaign, while in co-op mode, the second player controls Santiago. All 4 squad members are available for play during multiplayer games, along with Anthony Carmine, Min Young Kim, and Victor Hoffman. In addition to the various Locust characters, Marcus Phoenix is voiced by John DiMaggio, Dominic Santiago is voiced by Carlos Ferro, and Augustus Coltrane Cole is voiced by Lester the Mighty Rasta Spate. Plot. The game's plot begins 14 years after Emergence Day, when the Locusts horde overran and killed many COG soldiers and civilians, declaring war against humanity. Marcus Phoenix, a former COG soldier, is reinstated into the military after spending 4 years in prison for abandoning his military post in order to make a vain attempt to save his father. Adam Phoenix, Dominic Dom Santiago, Marcus, a best friend and fellow COG, successfully extracts Phoenix from the prison, and takes him to meet Delta Squad. The group seeks to obtain the Resonator, a device that will map the Hollow, the underground caverns which the Locust inhabit, and later deploy the Litmus bomb, which will destroy the heart of the Locust forces inside the Hollow. Phoenix and his allies recover the device, but suffer multiple casualties in the process, including Anthony Carmine and squad leader Kim. Fleeing RAAM's forces, Phoenix leads the remaining soldiers through the ruins of Ephora to claim a Junker APC drive to a mining facility, and finally into the planet's depths. Delta Squad successfully detonates the Resonator, but the device fails to map enough of the tunnel network. Fortunately, they discover a larger map of the network that originates from Phoenix's old home, specifically his father's laboratory. The group ventures to the Phoenix estate at East Barricade Academy, where Phoenix originally attempted to rescue his father. When they arrive, Delta encounters heavy Locust resistance. After collecting the data, the group fights their way past Locust forces and boards a train carrying the Litmus bomb. Phoenix and Santiago battle their way through the train, and finally are able to defeat General RAM before uploading the data. Fully activated, the Litmus bomb launches into the Hollow, and eradicates the Locust tunnel networks. In the game's final sequence, Hoffman delivers a victory speech as the tunnels collapse and explode, whereupon the voice of the Locust Queen promises that the Locust will continue to fight onward, despite their losses, and that their vengeance will be swift. In the original version of the game, the ending showed Scourge and the Bull Reaver as the Hollow blows up. In the Ultimate Edition, it was changed to Myra and the Tempest Beetle. Development. The first concept for the game was conceived around the years 2000 and 2001 as Unreal Warfare, which was much closer to the multiplayer-driven Unreal series than the game that would eventually become Gears of War. Gears of War was first shown as an unnamed exclusive for the Xbox 360 in a behind-closed-doors presentation by Epic Games at the 2005 Game Developers Conference. The demo was presented as a technology showcase for Unreal Engine 3 that would run on the Xenon processor at the center of the new Xbox. It showcased a group of human soldiers patrolling a city at night that fell under ambush. The demo was noted for its overall realism, suspense, and visual clarity, helping to reinforce the argument advanced by Epic Games founder Tim Sweeney for Microsoft to double the memory in the Xbox 360 from the planned 256K to 512K. This decision that would ultimately cost Microsoft tens of millions of dollars and restrict the number of Xbox 360 consoles available at launch, but allowed Gears of War and many other Xbox 360 games to run at 720p resolution. Design. The original concept for the game featured character classes and mechs being played in a closed arena against other players or bots. The game was then put on standby as Epic focused on the Unreal Tournament series, and when the team went back to it, the industry had shifted towards single-player games and the aim of the game was changed. According to Rod Ferguson, the game was at one point intended to be a horror game influenced by Band of Brothers, Resident Evil 4 and Kill Switch. A romance subplot was considered for the game but was eventually dropped. In an interview with Cliff Bleszinski, lead developer for Epic Games, he cites three games that were the primary influences in the game's design, including the third-person perspective from Resident Evil 4 and the tactical cover system from Kill Switch. Bleszinski also cited Bionic Commando's influence on the cover system, equating the actions of moving from cover to cover as similar to the action of swinging from platform to platform in the latter game. These design choices reflect themselves in the gameplay, as Gears of War focuses mainly on squad team-based and cover-dependent tactics with limited weapons rather than brute force. The game also includes a content filter, which will turn off the blood and gore, and the usage of profanity. The total cost of development was $10 million, according to Epic's Mark Rain, and only 20 to 30 people were involved with the development at any time. However, these figures don't include the proprietary Unreal Engine 3. Gears of War lead designer Cliff Bleszinski said he hoped for the game to expand into graphic novels and eventually film. On November 21, 2006, Microsoft's corporate VP of Global Marketing and Interactive Entertainment Business Jeff Bell stated Gears of War is the first in a trilogy. Through sequences on E-Day and the Battle of Jacinto Plateau, as well as information on Adam Phoenix and his research. Epic Games Vice President Mark Rain posted a message on the official Gears of War internet forums, stating, "It's not over until it is not fun anymore," and, in his view, Gears of War may become the next Halo series in terms of popularity. The ending to Gears of War heavily suggested a sequel, and at the 2007 Game Developers Conference, Bleszinski confirmed that Epic Games did intend to do a sequel to Gears of War. The game's sequel, Gears of War 2, was officially confirmed on February 20, 2008, and was released at midnight on November 7, 2008. On January 27, 2014, Microsoft announced that they have acquired all rights to the franchise from Epic Games and that Rod Ferguson had rejoined Microsoft Studios to lead development on future Gears of War games. PC version news of the franchise's future has emerged multiple times since the game's release. PC Gamer accidentally released an image in its 2006 holiday issue where Gears of War can be seen in a Games for Windows display, which led to suspicion that Gears of War would be released for the PC. However, the image was later stated to be a mock-up. Possible leaked pictures were released on February 13, 2007, leading to more suspicion of Gears on the PC. In an interview with Xbox fan site Team Xbox, Mark Rain stated that the game would eventually come to the PC. Epic was not currently ready to release it on that format, but the upcoming release of Unreal Tournament 3 was helping get optimization on the PC. On July 11, 2007 at the E3 conference, it was revealed that Gears of War would indeed be released for Windows. New features include 3 new multiplayer maps, an extension of 5 new single-player chapters to Act 5 which describes events of Delta Squad escaping a giant brewmig between Acts 4 and 5, new game modes, a game editor, and games for Windows, live support integrated into Unreal Engine 3. When asked about bringing the additional content to the Xbox 360 version, Mark Rain of Epic Games stated that, "It is unlikely we will bring that content to 360. He then states, "Unfortunately the version it's built on is not really compatible with the 360 and so it would involve a massive patch. A patch larger than all 5 we've done so far, to Gears of War to do that." Additionally, the PC and Xbox 360 versions will not allow for cross-platform play. Cliff Bleszinski stated that, while this feature does add value, it just wasn't that desired nor worth the extra months of design and development time. "We want Gears of War to be out this holiday on PC." This news angered many owners of Gears of War on the Xbox 360 due to the game no longer living up to its exclusively for the Xbox 360 title and not receiving the additional content. Mark Rain noted that despite their original label of the game as an Xbox 360 exclusive, Microsoft allowed them to develop the game as part of the Games for Windows moniker, as has been done previously with Halo 2. A patch was released on November 28 to fix performance issues and also the Games for Windows Live Update issue. The patch was only released for American and Western European versions of the game. Legitimate purchasers of the Eastern European and Russian versions were informed that the game would continue to function without the patch, and never issued a corresponding version. A Mac OS X version was confirmed by Mark Rain at the end of E3, on the Game Head television program on July 14, 2007, along with Unreal Tournament 3. But no release time frame was specified. As of August 2014, nothing more has been mentioned. The version has probably been silently cancelled due to the low sales of the PC version and fears of piracy. Digital certificate issue in early 2009, an issue with a digital certificate, used to sign certain game-critical files as part of the anti-cheat mechanism, which expired on January 28, 2009, rendered the game unplayable without a temporary workaround of resetting the system clock to before the certificate expired. Initial information from sources led people to believe the issue was related to DRM within the game. Epic later acknowledged the problem, claiming it was not in relation to a form of DRM but instead to a form of anti-cheat, and notified end users that they were working with Microsoft to get it resolved. This issue was corrected as of February 6, 2009 with a downloadable patch. Soundtrack: Gears of War. The soundtrack is the soundtrack of video game music from the game. It was released on July 31, 2007 by Something Else Music Works. The music was composed by Kevin Riepl, who has previously worked with Epic Games on soundtracks for Unreal Tournament 2004 and Unreal Championship 2. The Leandri conflict. Riepl began receiving early builds and cinematics about halfway through the development process. closely collaborating with the development team on the influence the music should have on the player and the story. The theme of destroyed beauty that had inspired the game's visuals guided the music too, creating moods suited to a beautiful city in ruins and the emotional desperation of its inhabitants. The score includes many mechanical percussive elements, altered samples of explosions, hits and impacts, and electric guitar stingers that punctuate the game's combat encounters. To complete the score, these elements were combined with the organic sounds of a live orchestra. The orchestral score was orchestrated and conducted by Corey Status and performed by the Northwest Sinfonia Orchestra. The title track was written and performed by thrash metal band Megadeth, with an instrumental version of the song being used for the soundtrack. A revised version with lyrics was featured on the band's 2007 album United Abominations. Megadeth performed the track live as headliners of Gigantor, a 25-stop metal tour sponsored by Microsoft as part of the promotion for the game.